Susan just came in and said, "Are you on YouTube?" And I had forgotten to go on YouTube.
Nice.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm going to go watch from my desk.
Nice. I'm glad you'll be. So you're going to join through Zoom. Excellent.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Or I'll be in here back and forth.
Got it. I love it.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. This is the second session of Before the Mourning. We're so excited for you to be here. Thank you for coming. I am so thrilled to have Maggie Miller today. Maggie and I have been friends and colleagues and mostly friends for a really long time. And she is just a special human being with incredible, she just has such skills and such soul and such depth. And I am thrilled to learn from her today and to share this time with all of you. So again, welcome to today's session. It is called Before the Mourning, Honoring Thy Father and Thy Mother. And it's a program for adult children of older parents and parents of adult children. That's the place I am in life, and I am really looking forward to learning from Maggie. So welcome, Maggie.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you for having me on this series, and thank you everybody for coming. It's a thrill to be here with you. So I'm Maggie Miller, and I'm here to talk with you today about honoring our parents as we all grow older. I live here in Denver, and I'm an executive coach and a program evaluator, and I'll tell you a little more about myself in just a few minutes. This presentation was going to be in person, and we switched to Zoom in an abundance of caution. So if you could, please take a minute and just use chat to type in a quick hello to everyone and tell us your name. And if there's, if you came for a particular reason, tell us why that is. That would be just great. And I'm going to open up my chat so that I can see it all come in as we do it.
I'm having a little chat problem, so I will work to make a change.
All right, I'm going to type in testing to see if can you all see I typed in testing? Okay, good. Nice. And LSV is Louisville, right? Okay, great. Nice. I'm so glad you're here, Shari. And let's see, I'm waiting for some other ones to come into chat. Amity from Florida. Oh, by way of Colorado, and your mother you're struggling with. Gotcha. And Amity, and feel free to use your voice too. Are you in Colorado right now?
Hi, Judy. Welcome.
Hi, Judy. Welcome. And Amity, gotcha. Okay, Amity. So you're in Florida and your mom's in Colorado. I think I understand that. Everybody who wants to, please introduce yourself in chat. Laura, FTC. What is FTC, Laura? Fort Collins. I went to grad school in Fort Collins. We used to call it Fort Fun. And your mom is in nursing care. Gotcha. Also in Fort Collins? Gotcha. Okay, great. And if anybody, let's see, Jamie, Director of Pre-Planning at Feldman Mortuary. So glad you're here. And in Denver, yes. And if you didn't have a chance to type in chat, feel free to just raise your hand, unmute yourself, and just tell us who you are. Sometimes that's just easier. So not to pick on anybody, but I think Judy or Linda, if you want to just unmute yourself. Yes, Judy. Uh-oh. I think, Judy, I read your hands, and I think you're having problems hearing too. Can you hear me? I'm glad you can hear me. and you're going to figure out how we can hear you. Okay, nice. Linda, in the meantime, would you like to tell us who you are? Unmute yourself. Lower left-hand corner. It's always something with Zoom, but I'm really glad this is the perfect size group because we can be interactive. And Linda, I think you're still working to unmute yourself, and that is fine. And Judy, you're still working on your audio. You know what? I'm glad to have all of you. And maybe what I'll do is, oh, I heard somebody, but maybe that was Jamie. I don't know.
It was me.
I'll tell you what, I will start talking. And the minute you start talking, I'm going to shut up because I really want to meet you. So just whenever it works out, I'll be happy for you. Okay. And this is perfect timing because Judy, you got it? Okay. All right.
Judy's having trouble and has had trouble for a long time. So
I gotcha.
Keep going.
Yeah, I gotcha. I hear you. This is perfect because I'm about for us to do a quick Zoom check-in. So if at all possible, please do put your camera on so we can see each other and have this be as much like real life as possible. On the other hand, oh, thank you, Amity. On the other hand, if for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable, I really respect that. Thank you, Laura. I'm super happy to see all your faces. It makes it so much easier. And it looks like some of you may even know each other, which is awesome. Please mute your microphone until you speak. Please do use chat anytime you want to. And Jamie, will you kind of monitor chat? Because sometimes I get on a roll and I don't see everything. Oh, Judy, problem with audio. Okay, not worked for a few months. Gotcha. Thank you. You'll communicate with us by chat. That's awesome. If you want to speak, either just like hold up your hand so that and nice and close to the camera so I can see it, or you can do that little under reactions on my computer, it's the lower right. You can actually raise your hand and it stays up for a while. And you can always lower it when you're done. So if you want to talk, either just, do this or just do that. And I'll be sure to, because this is going to be very interactive. And then also some people like to interact just by using those little reactions. So if you love something that somebody says, please say so. If you think what somebody said is awesome, please say so, or, applaud what they say. And if you think something's funny, do that. Maybe there's a sad face in there. I think this is a look of shock and horror. So, just go for it is what I'm saying. And they evaporate after 10 seconds anyway. In fact, at one point I'll be polling people by that way. And then you can of course use presenter view or gallery view. That's the little thing that says view in the upper right-hand corner. I like gallery view because I'm with a group. I'm with you all. I want to see you all at the same time and see how we're all reacting to things other people say. Okay. So I'm so glad that you're all here. So this workshop is called Honoring Thy Father and Thy Mother, a program for adult children of older parents and for parents of adult children. And I want to better get to know you. So I'm going to do a little poll, but not Zoom polls. They drive me crazy. You can use your little emoticons or just go like this. So let us all know and we have that a little bit. Thank you, Jamie, or Feldman Mortuary. Let us all know if you are an adult child of an older parent. I am. Raise your hand if you are. Okay. All right. Okay. How about if you have an older relative or like an older friend who you feel close to and maybe some sense of responsibility toward? Anybody? Okay. Okay. And now raise your hand if you're a parent of an adult child. Okay. And how about if you are a person who has a younger friend or relative in your life with whom you're particularly close and who may feel some sense of responsibility towards your well-being? Okay, so we have a nice mix here. All right. I myself am an adult child of an older parent, my mom. I'm also the younger cousin of an older cousin, Miriam, and her husband, Alan, and they do not have children. So I guess I'm first in line. Um, and I'm also in my first year of mourning for my dad. He died last December in Portland, Oregon. And I'm the daughter-in-law of my deceased father-in-law who died in 2013. Jamie was super helpful with him because he was in Denver. So, Jamie, you were also super helpful with my dad, even though my dad was in Portland and had no pre-arrangements because you gave me the name of a family mortuary there. So I'm going to get started by providing some background on the fifth commandment. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. There's a lot of translations for that. That's one from the JPS Tanakh, the Jewish Tanakh. So when I taught Sunday school at our synagogue, I taught second graders, and we taught them about the 10 commandments, of course, and this was one of them. And the idea was that the kids should do what their parents told them and be respectful. Now, there are certainly some very interesting interpretations of the subtleties of this commandment in my tradition. So, for example, the interpretation found in Gersonides' medieval Torah commentary. He argues that our days being long upon the earth, you heard that second part, that your days be long upon the earth, is not a reward, but rather a natural result of honoring our parents. That is, by respecting our parents, that ensures that succeeding generations will accept the teaching of their elders. And the patterns then repeats generation after generation. And so thus we live a long life in the values that are perpetuated after our life. Another interesting interpretation, and one that's very relevant to our approach today, says that honoring one's parents is directed to the concern for their physical needs. It's in the Talmud. The Talmud teaches honoring one's parents is observed by helping them to eat and drink, clothing and covering them, and helping them to go in and out. So feeling respectful or feeling honor is not central to the Talmud. Rather, acting in a way that makes the parent feel that he or she is a significant and special person to the child is what Jewish law demands, according to the Talmud. So it seems so simple at first, has many nuances. And I also heard, as I was preparing those lessons back for the second graders, that the 8-year-olds think it means not talking back to mommy and daddy and doing their chores. That was a big one in the brainstorming, doing their chores. But what we know is that the rubber really hits the road with this commandment for adult children of older parents. As those parents age and as they experience new health challenges and as they may need a bit more support, as the Talmud described. So when we talk about honoring our parents here together, which this will be a group discussion in a few moments, that's what we're talking about. I'm going to read a passage about the book, My Mother, Your Mother, an excellent book that I would highly recommend by the late geriatrician, Dennis McCullough, to bring us right into the here and now. Thanks to advances in science and medicine, our parents are living longer than ever before. But our healthcare system doesn't perform as well when decline eventually sets in. We want to do our best as our loved ones face new complications, more diseases, more disabilities, demanding further need for support and careful judgment. But the choices we have to make can seem overwhelming. May I see a thumbs up or a heart if this resonates with you, either in your current experience or your past experience or any anxiety that you might feel about future. I see a thumbs up. I see a nod. Yeah. I mentioned before that I'm an executive coach. I coach people about their careers, about being a better manager, about making a career transition, time management, task management, all that. But I also coach adult children of older parents because, and I'll read you this adapted from my website, as our parents grow older and start to need us more, it's as if we just got a new job, and not necessarily one that we remembered applying for, and not necessarily one that we went to orientation for. So I actually coach people, adult children of older parents, as if it's a job, but of course it's the job of honoring their parents. Yes, Sherry, one that we want. I will tell you that some of my clients, they're ambivalent about whether they wanted, but yes. So here's some things to complicate it further. A national study of more than 7,000 participants revealed that 1/3 of parents aged 70 or older with physical limitations received regular assistance from their children. So it's real. And at the same time, as Claire Berman wrote in The Atlantic, as parents get older, attempts to hold on to our independence, she's talking about herself, can be at odds with even the most well-intentioned suggestions from our children. We want to be cared about, but we fear being cared for. Hence the push and pull when a well-meaning offspring steps onto our turf. And also, let's not forget that support is a two-way street. Older parents and many families provide both financial and emotional support to their adult children and continue to do that for many years. So the commandment is tricky, and that's what we're here to talk about. Now, I come with my own unique perspective based on my own life experience, things I've learned from books and teachers, the things I've learned from family, friends, clients. I'm a certified senior advisor. I can talk about what that means if you want to know. And I've been thinking about this stuff for a lot of years. John, welcome. So this workshop isn't about me talking at you. This is going to be a conversation. So here's what we'll do next. And John, I invite you to write in chat your name and where you live and why you're here, if that's relevant. And also, as you can see, I'm inviting everybody to show their face if they're comfortable with it. It makes it more interactive. And thank you for being, hi, good to see your face. And I invite everybody to be on mute, but when we talk, please go ahead and unmute yourself. And also just raise your hand if you want to talk. Okay, so to start our conversation, I'm going to go through a few slides, about 7 slides, and each one is about a different chapter of life as we grow older and face different health challenges before we die and the mourning begins. So it seemed appropriate for the topic of before the mourning. As I go through these slides, I'll be asking you to think about, if I were the adult child of an older parent who is described in this chapter, in this slide, how should I best honor my parent or parents? And also, if this slide were to describe me, because at some point this slide probably will be describing me, how would I want to be honored by my children? And I'm not going to put you in breakout rooms. 1, just because of timing, and 2, because I think it's impossible. I think we got something from our Zoom host saying it was impossible. So we will do this as a group, and so I'll ask you to chime in and chat, and if you feel comfortable, which I hope you do, also go ahead and speak. I really do want that. I might be doing some coaching of you if you want to have a quick mini coaching session. It's totally up to where the group is at. And so let me go ahead and start sharing these slides. And Jamie, I think thank you, John. So you're in Denver, close to downtown. Me too. I live in 5 Points. So Jamie, will you go ahead and load in the handout? Oh, thank you for that. Wonderful. No, that too. Good. And will you also go ahead and load that? See if you can actually upload that whole document, the handout. This is an 11 or 12 page handout for people to have in case they want to download it and keep it for later, because the slides are very full, but the handout is even more full.
And everybody, just so you know, I will load it here, but I have also emailed it to you. So you'll have it there as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This is where when I'm a participant, I always like to stop showing my face because, this isn't there very, like, you know how it is. um, and I'll just say it for intro. So this is my dad. That is a picture a selfie that I took pre-COVID, right after he had moved up to affordable living in Portland, Oregon, which is where he really, really, really wanted to live, even though I, of course, really wanted him to live here. But I visited a lot before COVID, and we talked a lot on the phone during COVID. And this is my mom, who I just went out and visited last week. She's in Los Angeles, and she had a heart attack in May. And the meds are doing a number on her. But as you can see, this was a really good day. And my daughter came out, and Sherry, I have an update for you about Jordy. My daughter came out, that's her on the sideline right there. And it was wonderful for my mom and my daughter to be together. It made me super happy. Okay, and this is just what my website looks like. So if you decide to go to it, and I think Jamie's going to put a link in chat at the end, this is just what it looks like. And you'll see that I do program evaluation, but right there's my coaching adult children of older parents, of aging parents. Okay, so the slides that I'm going to show you are from this excellent book. I posted it recently on Facebook in response to something somebody else had posted, and somebody said, "Oh, great, something else we have to be good at." The Art of Dying Well is an excellent book. Katie Butler is a journalist. She's an excellent researcher. This is her second of 2 books. The first one is called Knocking at Heaven's Door, and it's more of a memoir. She was inspired to write about this topic as she supported first her father and then her mother at the end of their lives. Katie Butler is 72 years old. And by the way, she has a great Facebook page called Slow Medicine that is very well moderated. Okay, so the chapters are these, and each one has a slide, and there's a lot of text in the slide. I know from being a learner myself and having a fair amount of teaching experience that we learn by both reading and by hearing. I'm actually going to ask other people to read some of the slides. One, because my voice gets tired, I get sick of my own voice. And honestly, I'll tell you, chapter 5 especially, I cannot get through right now without choking up just because of where my mom's health is at. So let's go ahead and start. But as we go through each of these slides, just again, and you may even want to jot notes down to yourself because, when we have our group discussion, you may want to have some notes to refer to. If I were the child of an older parent who's described in this chapter, how should I honor them? And if this chapter were to describe me, because at some point it's going to possibly, unless you die like, or we all die like my father died, which was basically just a very, very quick, not entirely unexpected, but a very quick death, which was a blessing really to everybody. But we can't predict that will happen to all of us, and not all of us want that. So if that chapter were to describe me, how would I want my children or my child to honor me? Okay, so I'll read the first slide and then I'll ask somebody to volunteer. So chapter 1, resilience. You easily blew out all the candles on your 50th or 60th birthday cake. Aches, pains, and health problems are annoying, but not limiting. You pay your own bills, make your own medical decisions, and generally enjoy life. You wonder why they make the numbers on the credit card so small and fuzzy. Your hair is thinning in familiar places and sprouting in strange ones. You misplace keys and names. You're not crazy about tech updates. A late night blows a hole in the next day. Sometimes you're in bed by 9. You've discovered naps. Getting in shape takes longer, and the results are less impressive. You injure more easily and recover more slowly. Some friends have died. You find obituaries interesting. You sometimes sense that your time on earth is limited and precious. All right. So that's chapter 1, resilience. May I please have a volunteer to read chapter 2? Thank you, Shari.
I can't guarantee that I'll read it as animated as you did, Maggie, but I'll give it a try. It took some effort to blow out all the candles on your last birthday cake. You'd sometimes say, I'm not who I used to be, if only to yourself. You see at least 2 ologists, a nephrologist, pulmonologist, urologist, endocrinologist, gastroenterologist, neurologist, or cardiologist. You take at least 3 medications regularly. Your physical reserves are thinner. A cold, flu, or minor injury flattens you for a week. Your cognitive margins are thinner too. You sometimes feel confused if you drink too little water, get too little sleep, or pick up a urinary tract infection. You're slowing down, and your satisfactions are shifting. You water walk rather than hike, do Tai Chi rather than salsa, take photographs rather than bike. You're not in a nursing home. You don't fall frequently. You can still get out of a chair on your own and walk half a mile under your own power on flat ground.
Thanks, Shari. Could somebody please read chapter 3, adaptation?
Those are 3.
All right. Thanks, Amity.
You know you're not going to get better. This is the new normal. You say, I don't know who I am anymore, if only to yourself. You've given up driving. People who've helped in the past are helping you now. You use hearing aids, a cane, a walker, a seeing eye dog, or a wheelchair. You need help with some chores of modern life, such as yard work and housework, shopping for groceries, doing your taxes, taking medications on time, cooking dinner, or making phone calls. Your health conditions aren't annoyances anymore. They've changed how you live. You sometimes worry that you're exhausting your family members. You're considering moving into assisted living or in with a relative or getting more help at home. You no longer call the shots around your house, and you know it.
Thanks, Amity. Could somebody please read chapter 4? Thank you, John.
I've got some background noise here. I'm repairing the house, so hopefully you can hear this. A doctor says you have a serious or terminal illness, an organ vital to sustaining life. Your heart, brain, kidneys, lungs, or liver is slowly failing. You're in the early stages of an incurable disease that worsens over time. Doctors refuse to assess your prognosis or say your disease has poor or dire prognosis. Your doctor used terms like chronic, progressive, serious, advanced, late stage, or end stage. Doctors want to discuss goals of care. You have a gut sense that following this medical appointment, your life will be forever divided into before and after.
Thanks, John. Would somebody like to read chapter 5? Thanks, Jamie.
Sure. Zest for living is melting away along with appetite, energy, and investment in relationships. It takes you more than 20 seconds to rise from a chair, walk 10 feet at a normal pace, turn around, walk back, and sit down. You've lost 10 pounds or 10% of body weight within the past year. You can't walk half a mile unaided, unscrew a jar, or pick up a dining room chair. To get up, you push up with both hands. You fall frequently, have graduated to a walker or a wheelchair, or use tabletops and counters for balance. You spend 10 hours or more a day sleeping. You need help from hired caregivers, or you live in a nursing home, in assisted living, or with relatives. You've gone to the emergency room at least once in the past year and come back worse, not better. You have progressed from forgetting names to forgetting the way home.
Thank you, Jamie. And could somebody please read chapter 6? And you can double dip.
I feel like I should be doing this one.
Okay, well, yes, although yes, you do this one and John will do chapter 7, the
Oh,
last
John, go
chapter.
ahead. No, John, go ahead.
You sure? Okay. If asked, your doctors would say that they would be surprised if you died within a year. You've lost 10% or more of your body weight in the past 6 months. You have a terminal diagnosis, and doctors say your illness is advanced or is reaching its end stages. A doctor has said about your cancer, there's nothing more we can do for you. A friend, family member, or doctor has suggested hospice. You've refused dialysis, a defibrillator, or other life-prolonging technology. You say or think things like, why am I alive? No more hospitals, or I'm ready for God to take me. You feel life is no longer worth living. If you haven't already, you feel the urge to reconcile old conflicts, forgive people who hurt you, and otherwise make peace or deepen your connection with spiritual questions. If you haven't done so earlier, you begin to make funeral plans, give away clothes, or throw out old papers so you don't leave a mess for your kids.
Thanks, John. Jamie, will you do chapter 7, active dying?
Absolutely. The gravely ill person stops eating, talks about needing to pack to go home, cross a river, or move to a higher floor of a nursing home. Sees, dreams of, or speaks of attending a party with the dead. Talks of wanting to join dead loved ones. Sees spirit guides such as a coyote, the Virgin Mary, or something more idiosyncratic, like a man in a top hat sitting on the roof outside the window. Cannot get out of bed. Needs to be helped to the bathroom or uses a diaper. Says, I'm dying, or there isn't much time. Rallies, reviving briefly with a burst of joy, exuberance, and expressions of love that may last several hours or occasionally days, followed by a collapse of energy. Withdraws, naps for hours, speaks little, and keeps eyes closed.
Thank you, Jamie. So we won't do breakout rooms, but again, what we're going to talk about is for each of these chapters, how should we honor our parent? How would we want to be honored? So that's what we'll talk about. I'm going to close the slideshow, but Jamie has put this part in chat. John, if you don't see it in chat, Jamie can put it in again just because of when you were able to join. So just ask. And let me stop sharing. There we go. Jamie, do we have somebody else in the waiting room also? You're muted, but I read your nonverbals. Great. I'm so glad that Nadine's here. Nadine, welcome. I hope that, oh, did she leave again? I hope she comes back. She gave a really wonderful presentation with the Denver Public Library and AARP about the resilient caregiver. So hopefully she'll be back again. So obviously those chapters, which are written as very clear cut, there's some back and forth between them. My mom went into chapter 5, and then she's back in 4, but it's not always a completely synchronous process. In the handout, you can read more about those, and you can also, I think Nadine's back in the waiting room, Jamie. You also, the book, My Mother, Your Mother, is very, very good. And I have quotes in the handout from that as well. And that describes them as not chapters, but as stations. And he has a slightly different take on it with a lot of similarities. That's also quite good. Nadine, welcome. Please, if you can, show your wonderful and say in chat who you are. I was just saying how wonderful your presentation was for Denver Public Library and AARP. Okay, so I can hear you. Awesome.
Thank you
Great.
guys. I'm so sorry I'm so late. I've been trying to get in and I've had technical challenges, but I'm glad to be here now. And I look forward to listening to the recording.
Awesome. Terrific. And you got here just in time for the interactive part of the presentation. So Jamie, thanks for reposting. So everyone, now this is your turn. And like I said, I can do some coaching if it feels right, like somebody wants a quick 10-minute coaching session. They're actually really fun to participate in and fun to watch. But otherwise, just share in chat or by just unmuting and speaking something about, for any one of those chapters, what stood out for you is like, this is how I want to honor my aging parent, or this is how I would want to be honored.
Well, for me, I just thought that the descriptions were so incredibly powerful to be able to kind of, I'm watching my parents and my in-laws, and I really appreciated the way that it was really described. My husband and I will leave time with them and think, oh, I sort of see some changes happening. And it's really fascinating and helpful to be able to say, oh, of course, changes are happening. We're entering this new phase of life. So I really appreciate that. And it is going to help me, I believe, in figuring out how to talk to them about it. And I am a big believer in really breaking down taboos. And so to be able to try to talk about what's happening, they've got to notice it if we notice it. And so we need to figure out, how do we bring that up, and how do we talk about what should happen going forward? What are their needs? What do they want from us, and what do we want from them?
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. What are some thoughts that you have about how you might have that conversation?
Well, I think it'll be interesting because I have very different relationships with my own parents than with my in-laws. And shockingly, it's actually that I have an easier way of interacting with my in-laws. Maggie, you know a lot of that. But so I think it will be very interesting because just thinking about personalities and thinking about the ability to acknowledge failure. I don't even want to say failure, but like challenges is going to be interesting. And I think on some level with my own parents, especially with my dad, with whom I have a very, very challenging relationship, I'm not sure I will take part in a lot of that. And so that's going to be, I think, okay, because I've come to a lot of acceptance of what that relationship is. But also I think that from the outside, it might be somewhat guilt-inducing from people who have an expectation of me as
Yes, yes. That is, I think I'm going to limit my own personal sharing until maybe towards the end, because I'm a terrible lecturer, although I guess I did all right. But I'm a good facilitator. And so I'm going to just keep my own life experience out for a minute. And I just want to ask you, and then then Sherry, I'm going to address your chat. Thank you. Jamie, yes, our adult parents our older parents are individuals, just like they always were, and just like we are, right? And so it's not a one size fits all. What you described with your in-laws versus like your dad, and then that guilt inducing, that outside stuff, nobody can know your relationship with your parent as well as you know it, right? Except I have to say that when my mom had the crisis, had the heart attack, I was like, okay, back into therapy. And I found the therapist that I had talked to when my dad had his first decline. And my relationship with my mom is so strange. And the best thing about therapy, she's a very good therapist, she's very intuitive. And I was like, oh my God, you get my relationship. And just having one person like get that relationship was so helpful. So yeah, that guilt inducing, that'll be out there. Of course, he wants you to come visit him. This is with my dad, right? You don't know my dad, right? Yeah. So Jamie, thank you for.
Yeah, I've really gotten very good at sort of saying, I'm so glad that that's your experience. You know, like that people share their experience of my parents or my in-laws or whatever, and it might be very different than my experience. And instead of kind of being like, well, here's what my experience is, I've really, unless they're close to me, I've really gotten very good at saying, yeah, I'm so glad that's how it is for you.
I have a friend who needs to talk with you. I'm going to tell her to talk with you because she and her sibling have remarkably different experiences of their father who died about a month ago. So yeah, thank you, Jamie. Sherry, I'm going to read this. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read it. May I read it out loud? Do you want to, so that other people who aren't looking at chat are like, what's Maggie saying? I find the whole trajectory depressing, exclamation point. The description of active dying was very representative with my dad, and I found myself doing things for his care that I never imagined I would. His death makes me worried about how I will manage my mother's decline, and of course, makes me want to figure out a way to avoid this burden with my own kids. Yeah, I'm going to throw this out to you and the group. It's one of those questions that maybe has no answer. Is there a way to avoid this burden with our own kids or not? John, you're nodding.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually thinking about that. I have, my parents have been gone for over 20 and over 30 years respectively. So they've been gone quite a while. Doesn't mean I can't reflect upon that, but in any event, my mother-in-law is, and I hate to even get into it a bit because, it's kind of feels a little sacred. You want to honor, the brother or the siblings and what they decide to do. So it's difficult to talk about in terms of any intervention I could do. I could make suggestions or thoughts, but I've got to be, quite tippy-toe about it with them. I guess for me, I was reading through these, I was just struck by and thinking about, my father died very, very quickly, 35 years ago. So my mother, though, had brain cancer and she had a slower decline. And, it just didn't really, I think the thing that struck me most about that was there was a feeling as though I was on a roller coaster emotionally with respect to watching her go through, different procedures or different medication and then having different challenges that she had to deal with. And how was I to, react to that? So there was one of hope that maybe she was going to come out of it and that, things would be better. Then there was the downside where you think, no, that's not going to happen. Things aren't looking so good. There are events or things that occurred over the 2 years that she suffered. So, but there was no real discussion at all about how to care. She had just decided that she was going to go to hospice, and her life her way of life was very compromised. So she didn't want to continue, and she made that decision. pretty much on her own and just said, I need to go on. So there wasn't a lot of discussion. I have three younger brothers, so there wasn't a lot of discussion about whether the next steps. It was interesting to see and reflect upon how maybe each of us questioned what was going to happen or how it was going to happen or who was going to be responsible, and just it never came up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I would suggest that that is the path of some people at the end of their life. They are not inviting the discussion. They are making that decision. That's how they choose to make it. Do you think that was your mother's conscious choice? Do you think,
Yeah.
or do you think she
Yeah.
secretly was wishing you would have brought it up?
No, I think it's a conscious choice. She was pretty self-determined,
Mm-hmm.
and she'd made a decision. We tried talking to her about it, but she was pretty adamant about what direction she was going to go, and rightly so. I mean, she couldn't do the things she wanted to do. She couldn't drive, obviously. She was falling. She had to use a walker. She really wasn't enjoying life. And then she tried chemotherapy, and it did not set with her at all. So she said,
Mhm.
"Look, I'm done. I need to just kind of go on with it." I guess the thing that frustrated me most was the physicians were oftentimes providing hope that things are going to get better. And I don't think they were really honest about that. They probably weren't even, they probably knew, but were unwilling to say. I guess that was the most disappointing part of the whole process, because that could have prevented us from having to go through the roller coaster of emotions and to aim towards what she really wanted, and have a grieving process that was advantageous to her and to us.
Yes, I want to affirm what you're saying. I hear from clients, and Nadine also consults with caregivers, and that clients, coaching clients, do say that they are having trouble getting straight answers from doctors. I myself, recently, just with my mother after the heart attack, pretty much the conversation was, and now, with the help of medication, and even despite the fact that she's refusing to take some medications because she doesn't like the way they make her feel. I mean, she said to me, I would rather never go back to the hospital again, even if it means dying right here at home, like in the moment. And she's also said things to me like, if I ever need to move to a nursing home, you can just put a pillow over my head. Or if I ever get dementia, just put a pillow over my head. And I said, well, Mom, I can't do that. But what I can do is I can be very assertive when we are on a conference call with the doctor about what those wishes are. And what I found is that the doctors would quickly say, okay, I see you have your advanced directives in file. Great, we're good. And I said, nope, wait, I need you to hear what my mother has said about these goals of care, and just got very specific. Okay. So yes, I affirm your frustration, and I suspect that others could as well. Let's see. Yeah. And Jamie, physicians. Yes. I'll read your comment, and I'll recommend a third book, just because 2 books weren't enough, right? Physicians spend years learning to navigate illnesses and only hours learning about death. Yes, that is so true, Jamie. And I think if anybody wants to have company on the roller coaster, because there's a roller coaster no matter what, depending on the person's trajectory of their decline. But the Dennis McCullough's book that's in the handout, described in the handout, and The Art of Dying Well are excellent. And then from a more memoir point, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Katie Butler's first book, is excellent. But another one, if you really have the stomach for this, is called Jessica Zitter Extreme Measures. So Jessica Zitter is she's an ICU pulmonary doc, but then she had a sort of a big waking up moment and started studying palliative care. And so she talks about how it's so easy to get on the conveyor belt that leads to years and years of a life that a person might not want to have, their caregivers might not want them to have, but nobody had that conversation. Can I type the author and the title into chat? I sure can. I'm going to ask Jamie to. Jessica Zitter, and it's called Extreme Measures. Yeah. So I echo that. Let's see. I want to pick up on something else. Thank you. Thank you. That John said, which was about roles. John. Yeah. Has anybody else had the experience of, I have an opinion, but I'm the in-law, and I'm not the child. I'm not my wife's siblings. So what's my role here? Give me a thumbs up for Jamie, Shari. I see a smile from Linda. Not to pick on anybody, but would anybody care to talk about, like, okay, what is in my job description, using the job analogy? Nadine, would you be willing to share with us? And if your camera can be on, that would be awesome, because I want people to see who you are and how wonderful you are. But talk about your experience with roles, or the experience of your clients.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize. I've got camera challenges today.
I hear you.
But wow, this is such an interesting dynamic, right? And the minute you said in-laws, and the fact that you you don't really know what your role or place is, and that is absolutely my challenge in my current situation with my mother-in-law, who has a number of health challenges. My husband just retired, and so now she is really very needy and utilizing him on a daily basis, basically, right? And so the question of what my role is number one, to make sure that I'm present and that I'm available for her within the boundaries that I set. Because right now we're experiencing a boundaryless experience and relationship. And so it is definitely a daily exercise, and being intentional and being clear about what the boundaries are for our relationship, and the boundaries in terms of what they need to be for my husband and I, so that she is not overstepping her boundaries, which she is like oblivious to on most days, right? Mm-hmm. And so candid communication with my husband is absolutely necessary when I recognize that, wow, what's happening here? I am being completely left out of the equation here. And I'm not okay with that, because of this is the work that I do. And it's important that we are clear about what's happening here. We are eyes wide open in this experience, as opposed to going in with blinders on and not being intentional, just kind of blowing with the wind or with whatever her whim might be for that particular day.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, we have to think about who our roles are. I have to say that with my husband, and both my mother and my father, my husband is the most supportive, wonderful man. I'd rather be married to him than anybody else in the world. So I want to say he's like the best husband in the world, except I recognize, like, other people have their best husbands in the world. But like, his reaction to my father and my mother caused me problems. And so I had to kind of figure out communicating both of those relationships. And so so there's that. And then Nadine brought up an excellent point, and I will comment on that, and then we'll have a quick closing because we're already at time, which is, let's see, it was about, again, about roles and boundaries. I'm just thinking about one client that I had who, she has a bunch of siblings, and she found herself doing all the managing of like getting this sibling to work on the bills and this sibling to work on the visits and this sibling to work on the meals. And in talking with her, I felt she had a lot of resentment towards her siblings. They were doing the work, but it was a bummer for her that she had to be the boss. And I remember there was a coaching session in which like her big aha was, okay, I get it. This is their limitations. If somebody's going to be the boss, it's going to be me. And so then the coaching was around, okay, knowing your brother's strengths and weaknesses, how best to put him to work, how best to delegate. It was delegation skills, basically. And so there's roles are complex no matter what the situation is. We're at 12:57, so I want to do a quick closing exercise. Oh, yes, Feldman Mortuary, thank you. 5 minutes left. What I'd love for you all to do, and I would really love if everybody could participate in this through chat, is just say either one little tidbit they heard. Yeah, let's base it on something you heard, and not necessarily from me. So one little tidbit you heard that either you find totally affirming or totally provocative, like, or maybe even somewhere in between. And let's watch them come in. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. And we'll watch them come in. I love watching people's face because I can tell they're typing. Kind of stages. Right. I'll just start responding to these briefly. So Jamie, yeah, when I was preparing this presentation and putting that Katie Butler stuff up there, I thought, oh my God, I can't talk about this stuff. And then I thought, Jamie talks about death. Surely I can talk about decline. So yeah, chapter descriptions. Yeah. Shari, yeah, need to sink that in more. Chapters right on. 1 to 7 in a short time. Yep, that was my dad for sure. Everyone has a different experience. Yes. Make wishes known, verbally or in writing. Big difference. Yeah, everybody's path is so unique, Judy, right? Shari, yeah, I agree. It's the decline. That's the scary part, right? And everybody's journey is, I mean, my grandma Dora, who Jamie also, I think, worked with, at 98, she had best health, total cognition until 98, 3 weeks of what's it called? Heart. It was I can't remember right now. Congestive heart failure, and then one night in the hospital, and then hospice at home. But she always used to say, "This isn't for sissies." And then she'd say, "But considering the alternative." And I thought, well, could I please order up your decline? I just want to die. I've told her it's not legal for me to help her with that, Laura. Yeah. And Laura, if you want to follow up with me, I can steer you. You probably have all these resources, but I could steer you to some resources that sort of talk about legalities and things like that. And I've got good people who are, there's this thing called death doulas, but it's not really regulated. Anyway, I know some good people who could talk about those kinds of things. Now, I was wondering if 2 months or 2 years to the end, right? We just don't know. Pregnancy is typically about 9 months, more or less. Okay, it's 101. We got to stop. Thank you all so much. Jamie and I will stay on. Jamie will stop recording, and Jamie will put my website in chat
Oh,
too.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Nadine, I invite you to put yours into chat also.
And I do want to share that next week we will be having me speak about different options that are available. Colorado has lots of choices, so we'll be talking about all of those things. So please join us next week. And then the week after, speaking of death doulas, we will have Vanessa Johnson, who is a death doula, and she will be talking about all kinds of different ways to approach death. So we will look forward to seeing you next week and the week after, I hope. And again, we will record and live stream on YouTube as well. Thanks so much for coming. And Maggie, thank you so much for being here. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Maggie.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Well, oh, what a special group.
That was wonderful. Great job. Laura, did
Are
you
we
wanna-
still recording?
Oh, thank you. I'll stop. recording.
Okay, great.
I need lots of help with that.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I'm just struggling with the, because the last few years have been hard. My mother really started declining. And within a few days, my brother was diagnosed with a brain tumor and he died within 3 months. And then his son during that period was diagnosed